More people come to this one lake than to any of the roughly 450 places the United States Army Corps of Engineers keeps across the whole country, and almost none of them know how many went into this water and never came back up. They come for the swim beach and the sound of children on the shore. They do not come counting the dead. But at least 281 people drowned in this reservoir between 1950 and 2006, and that count runs only through 2006. Every summer since has added to it. The strange part is not that it happened once. The strange part is that it keeps happening, year after year, in the friendliest looking water in Georgia. The lake at dusk looks like a postcard, a wide sheet of gold going soft at the edges. It never looks dangerous. So why does the busiest, gentlest lake the government runs take so many people? And how do the drowned fit into a place built for families and coolers and long summer afternoons? The name is Lake Allatoona, up in the hills above Cartersville and Acworth in North Georgia. By one measure, it draws about 92 million visitor hours in a single year, and the Corps counts an average near 6.7 million visits. No other reservoir the Corps runs anywhere in the country logs more visitor hours than this one. Picture the whole roster of those 450 lakes spread across the map, and this small Georgia water sits at the top of every one of them for sheer human traffic. It draws a crowd bigger than many a famous national park, and it does it inside an easy drive of a major city, so the parking lots fill by mid-morning on any warm weekend. Two things sit under this story, and both of them get paid off before it is done. A quiet body count follows the crowd out onto the water every summer, and a drowned town lies under the boats, an old iron town the water swallowed whole and never gave back. Start with the DIYing, because the how of it is plainer than people want it to be. The surface of this lake runs warm and inviting, bath warm by the middle of July, but a few feet down, along the rocky drop-offs, the water turns cold, and that cold pulls the breath and the strength out of a strong swimmer in a matter of seconds. Here is what the cold actually does to a body. A swimmer who drops from that warm surface into the cold underneath gasps without deciding to. The chest tightens, the breathing goes ragged, and arms that worked fine a moment ago will not obey. They call it cold water shock, and it does not care how many summers you have swum. It has drowned strong swimmers who never saw it coming. The bottom near those coves does not slope down gently either. A wader takes one ordinary step off a shelf of rock, and the floor simply is not there, and the warm shallows hand a body straight into the cold that waits below. The water is murky besides, a low green sediment-heavy water, so a person who slips under is gone from sight almost at once. A rescue boat can pass 10 feet over someone and see nothing but its own wake. And once a swimmer is down, the murk finishes the job, because divers who go after them work almost blind in that green water, feeling along a cluttered bottom by hand. What ought to take minutes takes hours. Add the jet skis carving the same coves where families wade. Add the coolers of beer that ride out with every third boat. Add the plain fact that most of the people who drown here were never wearing a life jacket at all. None of that is a curse. It is arithmetic. The Corps has done the plain, unglamorous work of trying to bend those numbers. After a hard safety push around 2015, wooden loaner stands went up at the swim beaches and the boat ramps. Each one hung with life jackets a family can borrow for the afternoon and hang back at the end of the day, no charge and no questions. The jackets sit there in the sun, bright orange against the gray posts, free for the taking. A ranger will tell you it takes only a minute to buckle one over a shirt, and still the pattern in the drownings barely moves. The ones the water takes are overwhelmingly grown men, and time after time the report comes back the same way, that the man who went under had no jacket on. A vest on a hook saves nobody. That is the quiet grief inside the safety stand, that the thing which would have carried a man home is often hanging dry on the shore while he goes down. The deaths track the crowd, not some hex on the hills. When the crowd swells, the water takes more of them. In the record summer of 2022, across the core district that covers both Allatoona and Lanier, 21 people had drowned by the middle of July, 8 more than in all of the year before, and their average age was 35. Every one of them was doing something ordinary, swimming a little too far from the dock, stepping off the back of a boat, wading in past the drop-off. A Corps ranger, quoted at the time, put it in words that do not leave you. That is 21 families, the ranger said, who came to the lake to have a good time and left without a family member or a friend. The rocky shoreline in the photographs does not look like a place where that happens. It never looks dangerous. If this is the kind of story you came for, the quiet dread of an ordinary place, a subscribe keeps them coming. And here is the fact that ought to settle any argument about whether this water is somehow evil. In 2018, for the first time in its recorded history, Lake Allatoona went a whole year with no water deaths at all, not one. The water did not change that year, the rock did not warm, the current did not lie down. What changed was the behavior, the life jackets, the caution, the sober hands on the wheel, which says the truth flat out. The lake is not hungry. It only answers what the crowd brings to it. Now go down under the boats to the thing most of them will never know is there. Before this was a lake, it was a valley with a river and a road and a name on the map. Etowah was no small place, a whole iron town spread along the river. A man named Mark Anthony Cooper built an ironworks here in the 1840s that grew into one of the largest iron operations in the whole Deep South, with a rolling mill and a row of stone furnaces and a rail line to carry the iron out. A working town of nearly 2,000 people rose around it, houses and shops and church and school, all of them fed by the heat of the furnaces. For a stretch of years, this valley made some of the iron that held the region together, and the glow of the furnaces at night could be seen from the ridges around. A whole working life gathered in that hollow, generations of families raised inside the noise of the mill. Then the war came. In 1864, Sherman's army marched through and burned the works and the town with it. The mill and the furnaces and the rail line left broken and cold. What the war left standing, the water finished. When Allatoona Dam went up and the reservoir filled behind it in 1949, the rising water closed over what remained of Etowah and the little hamlet of Glen Holly, houses and rail beds and foundations and all. The dam holds it down to this day, a gray wall of concrete standing between the living lake and the town beneath it. One relic got to stay above the waterline. Cooper's furnace, a tall stone stack, still stands just below the dam, the last standing bone of that vanished iron country, cold now where it once ran white, and the people who were buried there could not be left to the flood. The Cooper family cemetery, 11 graves, was dug up in 1949 to clear the ground before the water came, and 3 of the Cooper children were reburied in caskets made of iron, carried up out of the reach of the rising lake. An old cemetery gives up its dead slowly. It gives them up harder still when a government needs the ground. The dead had gathered on this ground long before the dam. On the shore of the lake, not beneath it, walkable in the daylight, lies the Allatoona Pass battlefield, a Civil War killing ground where men fell by the hundreds in a single autumn afternoon. On the 5th of October, 1864, about 5,300 men fought across this ridge for the railroad and the supplies stacked behind it. By the time the guns went quiet that same afternoon, close to a third of them were dead, wounded, or gone from the rolls. Cut down on ground, a family could walk in an hour today. A railroad cut runs through the ridge 175 feet deep through solid rock, carved out by hand, so straight and so deep it looks like the land was split with an axe. Both sides bled for that narrow trench of stone, and the fighting rolled up and down the slope beside it until the ground was slick with it. A grave they call the Unknown Hero is still tended on the ridge above the cut, a stone over a soldier whose name nobody ever learned, kept clean by hands that never knew him. People picnic beside it now. It never looks dangerous. Every so often, the lake hands the drowned town back for a little while. In the drought of 1986, the water dropped low and the old valley rose into the air again. Tree stumps, bleached gray, and house foundations and long stretches of the old drowned roads breaking the surface like something half remembered. Families walked out onto the mud where boats usually float. Children mowed the exposed lots and played ball on the bared foundations, running the bases on ground that spends its ordinary years under a keel. For one dry season, the town was a place you could stand in again, and then the rains returned and the water rose, and Etowah went back down into the dark, where the swimmers pass over it without a single thought for what is under their feet. Put the two halves together, and you have the whole grave truth of the place. A crowd the size of a small nation comes every summer to a warm and smiling lake with cold drop-offs and murky water and boat traffic and too little caution, and the water does what deep water always does to the careless in great numbers. And all of it plays out on top of a town that was drowned to make the reservoir, above a cemetery that had to be moved, beside a battlefield full of men who were dead long before the flood. The water is not hungry. It is not cursed. It does not want anyone. It only does what deep, cold, crowded water has always done, without malice and without mercy. Over the roofs of a town most of the people floating above will never know is down there. The danger was never in the look of the place. That was always the trap. It never looks dangerous. If you want the next one of these, the next quiet place with a loud history under the surface, a subscribe keeps them coming. Watch the water, wear the jacket, and carry the count with you the next time somebody swears a lake is perfectly safe.